My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
The IKEA Business Network is now open for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Join for free today to get access to interior design services to help you make the most of your workspace, employee well-being benefits to help you and your people grow, and amazing discounts on travel, insurance, and IKEA purchases, deliveries, and more. Take your small business to the next level when you sign up for the IKEA Business Network for free today by searching IKEA Business Network.
Welcome to Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the meaning and the power of the most important story in business. The one that answers why someone would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. This is the story that defines the very character and nature of an organization. At WordWrite, we call this your capital S story. In each episode, we feature guests who have great insights on business storytelling, who can share their experiences and key learnings to help you and your business do a better job of sharing your capital S story to deliver remarkable business results. Now, today's guest is a little bit different, as I'll be speaking with my colleague and WordWrite partner, Jeremy Church. Yes, this is an interview show, and every now and then we like to shake it up a little bit. Had several people ask, why don't we talk about WordWrite and what we do? So that's what we're going to do today a little bit. Let me share with you a little bit about Jeremy. First of all, Jeremy and I have been working together for 13 years. Like me, Jeremy began his professional career as a journalist. Poor guy. Smarter than me after graduating from the Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. He went on to a sports journalism career for about 4 years in the Columbus, Ohio area. He comes by that legitimately. I'm sure we'll talk about this in the episode. Jeremy was a very fine hockey player in his youth, and he's a very fine hockey coach today. Yes, one of his favorite movies is Slapshot. I don't know if we'll talk about that, but it's out there. I put it into the ether. After graduating from OU, Jeremy worked in and working in journalism. Jeremy worked in nonprofit PR for Culver Academy, which is where he graduated high school. Jeremy may debate me on this, but Culver is kind of considered a hockey factory or a football factory, or I don't know what it is today. Jeremy's a loyal alum. He can tell us, but he was that good of a hockey player. So it was natural that he was in sports journalism for a while, and then he went back to Culver, actually helped coach the hockey team there for a while. Then he came to Pittsburgh, which is home, when he and his wife started to have a family, worked for a performing arts organization, and also did business development for a law firm before joining WordWrite. Jeremy, maybe because I know more about you, I was able to give a little bit longer bio right off the top of my head. Is there anything I missed in introducing you to our audience?
No, I don't think so, Paul. I don't think you necessarily missed anything. I think it's just important to reemphasize that I'm a fairly late entry to the agency world, and I feel that all of those experiences that you described and all those roles I had in my 14 years prior to joining WordWrite helped shape the way that I've worked with our clients and our team these past 13 years, all in a positive way.
Wow, that is such a great point, Jeremy. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. That is true. And we do talk about that a lot with our clients. You've been in their shoes. You know what it's like to be inside an organization versus being brought in as an expert, which is the role that WordWrite typically plays. Um, Again, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here, my friend. Now, we always ask our guests about their organization's capital S story. And again, this is going to be a little bit of an inside baseball episode because we're going to talk about ourselves a little bit today. But really, when you think about WordWrite and your role at WordWrite, of the four questions that we say define the capitalist story, why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you, in your mind, which is most important for you at WordWrite today?
Well, I think obviously we're partial to all of them from a results generation standpoint for clients because if you don't fully flesh them all, excuse me, all out, then our experience tells us that you're not going to be able to distinguish yourself from your competition. But for the purposes of this discussion, I'll say if you're a potential client who wants to quote buy and quote our services, we fit our solutions to your pain points by always entering or trying to enter our client relationships or engagements through the strategy door first, and then providing a roadmap to success in the form of a concrete plan. Then, based upon your organization's ability or your company's ability to operationalize our recommendations, we let you decide if your team, your organization has the bandwidth to retain us for ongoing execution over a 3-month, 6-month annual term.
That's really such a great point, Jeremy, and I appreciate you framing it that way. You know, we often say that uncovering and developing that capital S story is like creating the roadmap. You know, most of us wouldn't go on a journey unless we knew where we were going, what our budget was, what our goals were. And really, if you don't know your story, how can you do that, right? And then, as you pointed out, once you know that story, as an organization, you can make the best decisions about how you want to share it and who should be doing the sharing of that story. That's critically important. Okay, I teased everybody a little bit about your personal story, but really let's dig into that a little bit. And you're a very humble guy, which is, I think, an important quality to have in our business because really our work is all about our clients. It's not about shining the spotlight on us. But talk a little bit about your personal story and how you feel that relates to what you do every day on a daily basis.
Sure. I think like we try and do with all of our clients, I really believe that we approach our work from the various backgrounds that we have and perspectives we have to provide, more of a holistic view of solutions for our clients. So, some of the best people that we have, yes, they started out in an agency from day one. Others, like me, they took a more roundabout path, journalism, nonprofit PR, performing arts marketing, and then law firm business development, like you mentioned before I landed at WordWrite. I think that clearly demonstrates how we try to hire for talent and then fill in the gaps from a skill standpoint with the proper guidance, patience, and direction.
That's really a great point. I forget who originally said this quote, hire for character, teach skills. And that's really how we kind of look at these things. But Jeremy, I'm not a hockey player, so I didn't teach you to play hockey. Talk a little bit about your role in sports and how that's related to what you do today.
Yeah, I think it's, and not just sports. I think having the opportunity to go away to prep school as a junior in high school, leave home, be in that more structured, regimented environment.
Because Culver's a military academy, we
And
should say.
it's a boarding school. Yeah. And I think it's, it's more for servant leadership. Be on time, make your bed, get your work done, and less about sending people into the armed forces or service academies, even though there are a number of students, obviously, every year that go to, West Point or the Air Force Academy or the Naval Academy. But I think, you know, it's a humbling experience. You go from, as you mentioned, maybe being one of the top players in your age group in one community, one city, and then all of a sudden you go to another place where everybody is just as talented, everybody has worked just as hard, similar to what I discovered when I went away and played collegiately. So you kind of either sink or swim there. Um, and I think the first year was a real adjustment for me, but it did teach me an important lesson because most of the time, unless you're, an elite, the best of the best going to play in the NHL, when you go off to play in college, you're not going to be a superstar. So you have to accept a role and understand that um, being a good teammate is the most important thing, most important aspect. You control what you can control. You be the best that you can be. You try and reach your potential, whatever that might be. And sometimes, a lot of times for people who are fortunate enough to go on and play collegiately, that role is not at, the top of the lineup and not, like I said, as a superstar. So you have to do what you're able to do to get on the ice, to get on the field, and make a positive contribution to helping the team have success. And I think that's, a good lesson for anybody, even if he or she doesn't play sports competitively, even if you're in a play or a band or an orchestra, right? There are certain roles and responsibilities that you have to help that entity succeed. And if you're not willing to embrace that role and not willing to be a good teammate, then you're not gonna be able to learn how to properly lead and follow as you evolve in your career. And you're not going to be a very good collaborator. And in our
Mhm.
business, especially, as we often talk about, PR, strategic communications is something we do with you, not to you. So there's that collaborative aspect, and you need to be able to bring out um, a high level of collaboration, both internally among your team, as well as with those that you're working with externally from an agency standpoint and a client service standpoint.
Wow, that is so much great thinking in there and sharing of your experience. Wonderful things to unpack. I want to latch on to what you said about collaboration. Uh, in our work, we are the outside experts that are brought in, and so many times there's a concern uh, inside our clients. Are we there to take their job? Are we there to tell them that they're doing things wrong? And while certainly we'll come in with recommendations to help them improve their results, it is all about collaboration. We view ourselves as an extension of our client's team, and that's of uh, we know what we know. I said to a client yesterday, uh, we're never going to know at the end of the day as much about your organization as you do. We're here to help you unlock the power of your marketing and PR, your story, in order to deliver better results. One of the things, Jeremy, today you're a successful high school hockey coach. And to me, that seems to be a similar kind of a role to the role we seek to play at WordWrite in terms of guiding people and helping them unlock their potential. How do you see that role as a leader of young men in how we work with our clients?
I think from a leadership standpoint, and I'm sure you'd feel the same, Paul, it's kind of an we're all in this together mentality. And you as the coach, you as the leader, can only have as much individual success as in proportion to the buy-in that you get from others on the team. Well, whether it's
Great.
at WordWrite or whether you're coaching a team, it can't matter to you more than it matters to everybody else. So success is dependent upon that. And we use this phrase a lot, and I certainly use it in coaching. We've really shifted to the word accountability.
Yeah.
And leadership management has evolved over the years. So has coaching, obviously, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, away from, you know, management coaching through fear of making mistake or messing up and
Yeah.
getting ready to jump down somebody's throat. It's evolved away from that accountability. And I'll give credit to the great book that you and I have both read that has really informed a lot of given me a lot to think about the last couple of years. It's called Let Them Lead. It's by John Bacon,
Mhm.
a Michigander. He also was an intern and helped coach at Culver right before I got there, but he's gone on to be a really accomplished author of many books. And he wrote a book called Let Them Lead, about coaching what he described as the worst high school hockey team in the country, in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and how he was able to build that in just a couple of years from, a team that hadn't won a game to getting to the Final Eight, regional finals in Michigan. And it was all dependent on being a good teammate and then accountability
Mhm.
and holding people accountable for their actions, holding people accountable for their behavior is not punishment. It's about respect. And it relates back to everybody being on the same page for the goals they
Mhm.
are trying to accomplish. So if you agree, this is the goal, this is what we're trying to do, this is where we're trying to go, and you get that buy-in from everybody, then that accountability is going to guide you. So we have to be accountable to each other, and it becomes like a people-led organization at WordWrite, which we hope it is. It becomes a player-led, where you're striving to get to a player-led team. So we intentionally, the last few years that I've been coaching at the high school, have tried to really stress that accountability to each other and the team and your teammates for the success, and point out periodically through the year that, hey, this is what it takes to have success. These are your goals. You agreed to this.
Mhm.
So you're the ones that need to hold each other accountable to it without, within reason, flying off the handle, yelling and screaming and getting, too bent out of shape out of things when they don't go your way.
Well, that's really just great insight. And the way I relate it to our work, Jeremy, is we often say with our clients, you shouldn't spend a single dollar on your marketing unless you know what it's going to get for you. And that's a measure of accountability. When we're working with our clients, a measure of our accountability in terms of delivering what we have promised to deliver to them. But it's also a measure of accountability in terms of our clients understanding what they're really seeking to do. Frequently, it's helping them to understand what are the reasonable and attainable business objectives that their marketing can achieve for them, right? This is great stuff, folks. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this short break with Jeremy Church, Vice President and Partner at WordWrite.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe.
Welcome back, folks, to Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the one that answers why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. This is the story that defines the character and nature of an organization. At WordWrite, we call it your capital S story. In this episode, I'm really thrilled to have Jeremy Church, my partner and vice president at WordWrite, join us to talk a little bit about what we do at WordWrite. And we dug in a little bit with some preliminary questions before the break. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit more deeply about Jeremy and his thoughts on the work that we do at this company. So, Jeremy, you and obviously, I founded the company, so I've been here for all the 22 years. You've been here for 13 of them. That's quite a span of time. And in our business, where digital marketing and now AI and other trends are really changing the nature of what we do. really makes me wonder, I'm curious, how do you think the way we help people in businesses has evolved over the nearly 13 years you've been at WordWrite?
Yeah, Paul, and I'm sure you've talked about this on other podcasts yourself and with other guests. I think from my standpoint, the most accessible example to share would be the way people and decision makers at other businesses consume information. I think long gone are the days of people waking up, dating myself a little bit,
Right,
waking up, walking outside in their robes and slippers and grabbing the morning paper to read with their coffee
right.
and finding out what the most important things in the world that are going on that day are. Now everyone's consuming information digitally, right? It's and mainly on their phones.
Yes.
That can be in blogs and social media posts, links that take them to ads or videos, and sometimes still, via credible third-party news sources or organizations. It's our job, our belief, right? I believe at least it's our job to help clients get their stories, their capital S story, like you've already talked about and described, their stories in front of the right target audiences in the right places at the right time. The content, as we know, still has to be great, and we feel we're experts at creating that content, but it has to get in front of the people who make the decisions to work with you or buy from you.
Yeah, we often talk with our clients in terms of executing campaigns, uncovering, developing, and sharing the stories. That our goal here is to move hearts and minds and inspire action. And as we talked about earlier in the episode, if you're trying to work on an internal campaign, moving the hearts and minds of employees is different than moving the hearts and minds of clients or customers or investors or partners. Each of those is an important audience, and the levers that you might need to pull in order to move their hearts and minds might be different than from another audience, but your story is your story. As I often say, your story is like a diamond, it has many facets. And the facet of that diamond that's interesting to employees or potential employees may not be the same as the one that's interesting to clients or potential clients. It still needs to roll up to the same story, right? And that's what's so critically important about what you do. And when, as you described it, the channels are the channels, the tools are the tools, and they're going to continue to evolve. Earlier in WordWrite's history, I would ask young graduates, how many classes did you have in Facebook when you were studying marketing? And they would laugh at me because there weren't any, right? Now, of course, no young person wants to admit they're on Facebook. It's all about IG and Snap and everything else, but the same principle. The tools keep changing, and the formalized education system, et cetera, it's always going to be a little bit behind. And it's our job as storytellers and practitioners to help our clients, to be explorers, and to help them see what the benefits are of TikTok, et cetera, all focused on sharing that story, right? Um, I'm curious too, Jeremy, from your perspective, from other places you've worked in the past, what makes WordWrite different from our competitors?
Yeah, you highlighted this earlier, Paul. Stole my thunder a little bit, and shows
Sorry, brother.
maybe a little bit of the thinking that we have. But we always tell our clients. I think this is something different. We do tell our clients up front, as you mentioned before, that they shouldn't spend a dollar on their marketing if it can't be tracked or measured to deliver ROI. Excuse me. I think that's one key. That's one thing that makes us different in our mind. We aren't pushing a cookie cutter solution, right? I think the other key is how we really live and breathe, hire, promote, work together based on our core values and actually spell out explicitly the behaviors that we associate with them for the team members when they join us. We're collaborative, authentic, intellectually curious, resourceful, and optimistic. Those are our core values. When we talk about being optimistic too, that doesn't mean we're always positive, but we're hopeful and we always expect the best. So
Right.
I think the fact that, we're upfront with our clients about talking about, hey, we're here to help drive results, find solutions, real business solutions for you, and how increasingly, especially over the last 5, 6 years, that we really live and breathe and don't just pay lip service to our core values are two key differentiators for us from some of our competitors and other differences for me personally from places that I've worked before.
Wow. Couldn't have said that better, my friend. This is why we work so well together. I'm always curious when we have someone on Storylines Live to ask them what brings them the most personal satisfaction and enjoyment in their work. So, what's that like for you?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, we're certainly client focused, so I think we it's always about our clients. So I'll bring it back to our clients and the people who we work with and are fortunate enough to work with. So it's fairly simple. I think solving problems and delivering business results that satisfy our clients is the most satisfying, rewarding part of what we do here. I think to dig a little bit deeper and get a little bit more granular, we also, and I'm sure you've talked about this in other podcasts and will in the future, we also do a ton of crisis communications work for clients, and that flies under the radar because obviously, it's confidential in nature. We can't really promote it. You joke about all the time. We joke about all the time, Paul, that we wish there was an award for the best headline you never read when it comes to a crisis.
That's right. Yep.
I think in that respect, when it comes to crisis communications, it's particularly rewarding to help a client in that type of situation minimize the damage to their reputation and bottom line. And you can really tell how truly appreciative and thankful they are when we help them get through those types of events.
Yeah, another thing that we often say, Jeremy, is that crisis PR is the brain surgery of PR. And that we're not patting ourselves on the back by saying that. We're trying to help our clients understand that, as you're pointing out with your comments, it's mission critical. Just like brain surgery, if you make a mistake, it could be life altering for our client, their organization. So you really, really need to be careful and you need to know what you're doing. And someday, Jeremy, we're going to get somebody to give out an award for the best headline you never read. We got to think about that one. In addition to personal satisfaction and enjoyment, we always ask our guests to share a client success story, a success story related to the work that they do. And certainly, given what we just talked about, crisis, a lot of times we can't share client names for confidentiality reasons. But I'm just curious if you have a favorite client success story you'd like to share with the audience.
Sure. In my early days, first year or two at WordWrite, way back in the last decade, we were able to take a client of ours from our home base here in Pittsburgh to New York City and get that client in front of, for his industry, really top tier media that resulted eventually in several articles on his company and his firm. A lot of people outside, and including I think some at the client's company, were skeptical that we could make that happen, but they underestimated him and his story. And just like we've talked about, and we always talk about, hence the name of the podcast, everything is rooted and goes back to a good, authentic story, starting from a place of truth. And just as a side note, we were able to replicate that with another client.
Yes.
Different team member several years later and just followed the same playbook. So I think that was one of the favorite success stories that we've had.
Yeah, and that was we took somebody from in the financial advising space from Pittsburgh to New York City, and we had people even in our business in New York City tell us nobody at the national media wanted to talk to somebody from Pittsburgh. And the story we came up with was the view from Main Street versus the view from Wall Street. And that had tremendous success. I believe, Jeremy, and again, it's been a few years and you worked more closely on this than I did. But my recollection is we also got something of a regular column and a national outlet for this client. Isn't that right?
Yep. A contributor to Forbes in addition to, interviews with Wall Street Journal, Fox Business, a few others as well. But yeah, he was able to be a recurring and regular contributor Forbes, and so subsequently where the other clients that we did a similar thing with a few
Yes.
years later, they were able to be contributors as well.
Yeah, I think we've worked with Kiplinger's for a while and some others. And yeah, it's very, very interesting. Jeremy, it's been great to have you on Storylines Live for this episode. I've really enjoyed shifting gears a little bit and getting to talk a little bit more deeply with you. We talk a lot every day. We're usually focused on talking about the clients and not what we do. So this has been kind of fun. Is there anything that I missed? Do you think it's important to highlight?
I guess only that, Paul, it's been a true pleasure to be here at WordWrite at your side for these past 13 years and learn from you and work alongside so many wonderful people, both past and present. I'm really grateful about and proud of what we've done and how we, have gone about doing our business and working with clients the right way. So, thank you for letting me spend a few minutes talking about it today.
Ah, you're too kind, my friend. As I said earlier, you one of the great things about you is your humility, which is such a valuable commodity in our business. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people in marketing who want to be the center of attention and make it all about them. And I think that's one of the things about us that differentiates us is that we keep that focus right on the client. Jeremy, how can people reach you?
Well, they can go to our website, right? WordWriteAgency.com. Certainly find me on LinkedIn as well. Those are probably the easiest way. I use Twitter typically, or X as I guess it is called today. I'll still
That's
always
right.
call it Twitter, right? Mainly just to see what's going on in sports, entertainment, and news, but I'm on there as well, obviously.
Wonderful. And folks, will have that all in the show notes too, so you can take a look at that. Once again, Jeremy, thank you, my friend, for being on today. It's been a pleasure to talk about how we work together and the work we do. And thank you to our audience for being with us for this episode of Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the one that answers why someone should buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. Your capital S story. We'll see you next time on Storylines Live.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Christy Heiler hosts a fantastic podcast called Own It. Christy, tell us more about the show.
Own It is all about celebrating women and non-binary advertising agency owners. We talk about buying out of the boys' club of advertising because less than 1% of ad agencies are owned by women.
And where can people subscribe?
You can find the podcast at untilyouownit.com. We're also on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net. And of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.